Hi, everybody. I thought I would hop on real quick to talk about a topic, but I wanted to give people an opportunity to hop on this live. My name is Tiffany Tota. I am a marriage and family therapist, and I work within our Middle Eastern community and offer some guidance on mental health issues as it relates to our cultural understanding. So for those that are hopping on real quick, I was going to talk about burnout. Now, before I go into the common signs of burnout, what is burnout, and then for you to reflect upon what burnout means to you. So to start thinking about your own life with the understanding of where am I at? So let's talk about that. Let's see, where are people coming in from? Are people hopping on? I'm coming from California, Los Angeles. All right, for all those that are joining, I'm going to talk about burnout and what burnout is. In our society, we live in a primarily chronically stressed, there's constant stimulus, we've got our phones, we're constantly bombarding with information, when this is not at all what we as human beings were meant to have. This constant information, it's an overload on top of existing issues within our own lives and within our own families. So I'm going to talk about within a Middle Eastern context, within our family obligations, our cultural obligations, what burnout may mean to us as a community, or perhaps to you. So, but let's see, where are people coming in from? I'm just hopping on this live real quick before I start my work day. I'm coming from Los Angeles. Anybody? Usually we get people from Egypt, from Masr, the UAE, Bahrain, anybody? Morocco, Somalia. I mean, we've had people from all over the Middle East join in, and nobody wants to say where they're from. You guys just want to hear me talk? All right, sounds good. Oh, Morocco. Hey, Sarah. All right, that's awesome. Welcome. Morocco is a beautiful, beautiful country. Oh, Dubai's in the house. We always got people from Dubai. Welcome. I think it's Bin Ghalib. I'm sorry, I'm mispronouncing that. All right, we've got Sammy from Jordan. Welcome, welcome, Sammy. I guess I should speak a little bit more Arabic. Ahlan wa sahlan fikum. If you have a question, yeah, go ahead and answer that. Oh, Somalia. People from Somalia come in all the time. Welcome, welcome. Love that. Today, I was going to talk about burnout and what that means. And so anyway, let's see. Afghanistan is in the house. Hi, Ava. All right. All right, let's get started. So first of all, I want you to just kind of take a minute to review. Let's see, Sammy, you've been cheated on? Oh God, that's a huge topic on infidelity. Let's see, huge topic on infidelity. How about this? Why don't we pin that and I will address that in a future live because it's too many nuances. Oh, Kalawati Beauty, hi, good to see you again. I know you need my help, but this is a big topic. Okay, let's talk about burnout, you guys. Okay, burnout, think about your own life. 10 being you're very stressed out, 0, not at all. And look at that gauge and think in your life, if you feel comfortable to put it in the chat, please go ahead. Where are you on that scale? 10, you're very burnt out, very stressed out, 0, not at all. And part of it is getting an understanding of your relationship to your own body, your own mind, your own being. So Bash, you put 10. Yeah, not surprised, especially people within our culture. I know I get a lot of pushback. Well, it's not just Arab. And I get all these nasty comments from people about, I get all these nasty comments from people like, why am I talking about the Middle East? I said, because there's no mental health. Like, where do we go to talk about our nuances within our culture? Let's see, Ryan K, 5 to 6. Thank you so much. Let's see. All right. Well, I am coming from Los Angeles, California. I'm a Palestinian American. For those of you that are interested, I'm a marriage and family therapist. For those of you that are new to my platform, and I specialize in Middle Eastern mental health. And I say specialize loosely because I'm constantly learning. All right. So let's talk about it. We've got, yeah, I hear you. So let's talk about. Let's see. Thank you. I'm just looking at the comments. Usually Mira, my assistant's on this, and she helps me navigate this. So let's talk about burnout. So some of you were at a 10. Some of you were at a 5 or 6. Maybe in your life you were at a 3. If you're at a 3, anything below like 4, 3, 2, you're doing pretty good. If you're in the 5, 6, 10, you really want to be mindful because chronic stress and chronic burnout can lead to physical health issues. Yes, Kalawatibi, you're at a 7. I know, Habibti. It's so hard because we put a lot of pressure on ourselves and we have a lot of cultural demands depending on your family that you can't escape. But burnout is a state of emotional, so your emotions, physical and mental exhaustion. So you wonder, and it's caused by a prolonged or like this excessive stress. And sometimes, and we're really good because most Arab have a very high frustration tolerance, very high frustration tolerance. Like it takes a lot before someone, at least in my experience, within my own personal experience, my family, my friends who are Middle Eastern, like before we fall apart, or what are the Gen Zs, they say crash out. It takes a lot before we go to those extensions. So usually when I'm working with people with the Middle East, it's about lowering your frustration tolerance when it comes to stress. And it often occurs when you're feeling chronically overwhelmed, emotionally drained, which for many of us within our families of origin, right? Our families can be profoundly emotionally draining because you can never please these people. And you're unable to meet the constant demands, not only in your own life, with your own family, your own friends, yourself, and then your parents, right? And then the extended family. It's like this constant stressors around that. Now, over time, if you're in this burnout, I'm letting you guys know, it reduces motivation, which I don't like using the word motivation. It like reduces your momentum. It lowers your productivity. It leads to feelings of detachment and hopelessness. So this is where I'm going to just think about it for you. Are you lacking any motivation? Is it hard for you to think some of the physical signs? But let me go to comments real quick. So that's what burnout is. How many of you are experiencing that right now? Some of the overwhelm, the feeling emotionally drained. Anybody want to share maybe a thumbs up or a little emoji? You guys like emojis? Thank you so much, Kalawati Beauty. I love it. You're always here to join me. B, yes, that's so awesome. Risky, thank you so much. Yeah, exactly. So we experience that on a daily basis. Yeah, Bash, absolutely. Especially depending on where you are in the Middle East or in Europe or in the US. Like it's some places, I'm not even going to begin to talk about it's so horrific in some places that I don't feel comfortable even talking about that. But the burnout and the stress and the trauma is there. But this is where it's going to be important for you to assess what are the common signs of burnout. Now, chronic fatigue, so you have a hard time getting up, headaches, muscle pain, frequent illness. So if you get the flu a lot, that's your body's way. I always say our body has a wealth of information if we just pay attention to it. Okay. Now, paying attention to the muscle aches and the pain is your body's signal to say, hey, pay attention to me. This is stress. It's burnout. For the context of this live, it's burnout. Emotional exhaustion. You're feeling drained, helpless, unmotivated. You may have a short fuse. You may snap at the smaller things, like somebody, moves something from here to here and you have an intense emotional reaction, well, typically those smaller things are masking the larger things that you may not be addressing in your life. So it's that emotional exhaustion, the physical exhaustion, the mental distancing that you may be doing is lack of enthusiasm in your work or lack of enthusiasm in your studies. You may be profoundly cynical. I know we come from a culture in general. I know everybody rags on me for saying, it's not my family. Okay, that's fine if it's not your family. But what I've seen is the cynicism, that victim mentality. Everything is gloom, doom, sad, terrible. It's like that mental distancing is awful. And you're also feeling disconnected. Now, when you're feeling disconnected, that's where you're doom scrolling, you're numbing out. And that's where these are all indicators that you may be experiencing burnout. Oh my gosh, some of these comments. Where is Mita to delete some of these people? Oh my gosh, hold on one second. I've got silly people saying silly things on the live. If anybody can flag them for me too, yeah, I might mute you. Stop being silly. Okay. Yeah. Jalto is upset. You know, you guys call me Jalto. Yeah. You know what's the beauty about being older and an adult, and you don't have to take nonsense from people, especially this is my platform and I'm just not in the mood for that. All right, let's keep going. You may have reduced performance at school. You struggle to concentrate. You may procrastinate. You may find yourself making mistakes. Those are all indicators for you to slow down and really assess what is causing the burnout. You may have irritability and mood swings. Now, that's where you have increased frustration. Like I said, you move something min hand lahan and you start to get imnetaviz or imnetavze, and you're saying, why am I getting so upset over these smaller things? And again, you may have increased sadness as well. Just that you're moving along in life and nothing fulfills you. Nothing makes you feel alive. And so this is where burnout is really, really important to address sooner than later. And the younger you are, the better you can get at addressing the burnout. It's going to be so important for you to develop those skills early, because the older you get, and I know for some of the young people, you don't imagine like you're 40 or 50, that the impact on your body and the severity of your mental health only gets worse. So if you guys, that's why I did this platform, because I said, I don't want the young people to suffer in the same way my generation suffered, right? Because you don't have to. That's why we need people to guide us and help us create awareness around this. Now, common causes of burnout. So think about your own life. What are some common causes? Work overload. You have too many responsibilities and long work hours. Okay. Now, within our Arab families, many times at a young age, we have very, very, demands and responsibilities from a very young age. So you may have been burnt out, I don't know, since the age of 10, right? That you had to maybe take care of things in your family, do paperwork for your family, depending on where they are. Maybe they expected you to work in the home and do all these things, which in and of itself is fine. But when you add work, school responsibilities, you add friendship responsibilities, that sometimes as a young person, that's where we learn this high frustration tolerance, because we have to have a lot of responsibility from a very young age. So the work overload. And now I know in my experience in working with Middle Eastern people, my goodness, we work way too hard. We're working long hours, and because that's who we have, a high work ethic. Yes. Hey, you says, feel like I'm drowning in life. That's right. That's why I'm doing this live, for you to be able to understand you don't have to drown, because many times we feel lack of control, feeling powerless over the decisions of our work and our life. And that's not true. You have a lot more control than you give yourself credit for, because we have to slow down and do a mindful assessment of the different aspects of your life and say, what is stressing me out? What is causing me burnout? And where do I have control, right? Being able to control the controllables. Many times there's unclear expectations, right? And confusion about roles and responsibilities. And that's where within our let's see, Rafi Shukal, please talk about expectations. You mean cultural expectations? I do have a whole video on that on my YouTube channel. But this is where unclear expectations around what is your role and responsibility. We come from a very collective culture. So sometimes that line between child and adult and what we're expected to do, those roles can be very, very confused. So it's for you as an adult to be able to find your own clarity, and that goes with boundaries around expectations. Just because our family expects all this stuff from us does not mean you have to do everything, and you don't have to do everything in that moment. So this is about slowing down. Let's see, Kalawati Beauty, playing the parent therapist is exhausting. It is exhausting. And so this is where, how do you establish your own expectations and be clear within yourself on how much you want to play that role? Because it is exhausting and it's endless. And last City Sunday, I talked about the mother wound. Take a look at that video if you wanted to look at that. You do not have to play that role. It's inappropriate. And that's not your job. Now, I know people talk a lot about work-life balance. Can't wait for the father wound. Yeah, B, that's on Sunday. The lack of work-life balance, no time for your personal life or relaxation. So much of our personal life is given to our families. Any amount of empty time that we have, or you're about to relax. And my sister and I, we laugh about, it's funny, not funny. The moment we sit down on the couch, Gadin, a long day of work, taking care of family, doing all this stuff, and you're just about to sit on the couch, guess what happens? A boy will call or Immi will call. It's like they have the spidey senses of the moment you're going to hit. And they have these spidey senses like, oh, hey, we're going to call them and add more demand. It is exhausting. You know what's funny? Erez, I'm going to just address you. What's Granny talking about? You know what's so funny? You guys think that by saying these mean things, you're hurting me. Look, I've been down some pretty difficult roads. So no matter what you say to me, I'm secure within myself. So let's try and be positive and let's try and not hurt one another. This community is about being together and healing and affirming one another. And anytime you say anything negative, know that's more about you than what I'm doing or what some of the people in the comments that are trying to heal and create awareness. So there's that. Okay, so common causes of burnout. So thinking about your work overload. Yes, we talked about, the last one, work-life balance. So when you want to relax, part of it is our families may demand from us and you don't have that personal time. It is key to minimizing burnout to carve out that personal time. And I know I call it Arabi finesse. Sometimes, and I know Western therapists would be really upset with me for saying that because we must be our authentic self. I go, well, in Middle Eastern families, sometimes you gotta not be authentic and fib a little bit. You got to lie a little bit and say, oh, I have a work obligation. And then you go relax and read your book at the cafe. Sometimes that's what we got to do because that's the path of least resistance. Toxic environments. This one is number one for me when it comes to burnout. If you are surrounding yourself with unsupportive work environment, negative relationships, negative people, the first thing I would do in assessing your burnout is, who am I surrounded with? Who are the people that I'm surrounding myself with? Because that negativity, when you're, because as in general, Middle Eastern people were absorbers of energy versus observers. So that's a lot of my work that I do with my clients is let's observe versus absorb. And then if you're around people that are constantly negative, toxic, gaslighting, hurting you, saying crappy comments, putting you down, ignoring you, whatever the heck they're doing, and you're excuse me, absorbing that energy, excuse me, that is the key to burnout. So take a look. If you're in a work environment and you're working, and you're doing everything and you get rewarded, not with the promotion or more masadi, you get promoted with more work, that environment is going to be the key to your burnout. And many times it reflects our family environment, your work environment, is you're giving to your work, you're giving to your family, you're giving to your friends, and yet you have nothing left for you. So these toxic environments, you have to be really, really careful around that. Now, the difference between stress and burnout, because stress is normal. We all go through stressors in life, right? I think the younger generation, it's like maybe social media has got you guys believing like, oh, I can't have any stress in my life. And the capacity for managing stress is very, very low. I've seen in my experience with the younger generation. Hey, you guys, you got to increase your capacity to manage stress. Now, stress, you may have a work responsibility and it's short-term stress, or you have exams or whatever the case may be, and you can manage that with rest and recovery. But the key is stress is short-term. Project, school exams, right? Now, burnout is long-term exhaustion that doesn't improve with rest, and it requires deep lifestyle changes. That's what people don't understand. If I was talking to somebody the other day, I said, your life is not going to change. Your burnout is not going to change unless you overhaul your life. And many times people do not want to do that. They don't want to overhaul their life. They're afraid of the change. They're afraid of disappointing people. And I'm here to tell you, if you're experiencing an intense amount of burnout, you don't want that cosmic 2x4 of getting ill with a autoimmune disease or cancer or deep depression or an increase in mental health issues. Now, this isn't meant to scare you. There are plenty of studies, and Dr. Gabor Mate has a lot of resources. I find him in particularly very interesting. Check out his work. If you say under chronic burnout, I'm letting you know at some point, because you think you're young, you can handle it. At some point, it's going to affect your physical health, your emotional health. It's going to impact your relationships. And I just don't think it's worth it. And you can make those changes by controlling what you can control. Okay. Any questions on that? Let's see. Oh, where is Mita? Mita is my helpful person here on the comments. Anybody have any questions? Let's see. Miss Tiffany, what about that our community, because our issue... Risky, I'm not sure what you're asking. You mean like within our Middle Eastern community? I mean, what we experience is no different than other cultures at all. I mean, we're all human beings having a human experience. However, I find it important that we come together as a community to talk about it, because we heal. If we're a collective culture, let us heal together and change and shift some of the dynamics with the younger generation. Let's see. I think it's Narges. My husband's family are so toxic. I hear you. And I'm really sorry that that's a very difficult dynamic. And the only thing, and that can also lead to burnout, because these people just drain you completely. And that's where you want to limit contact with the family. I don't know what excuses you need to make. I don't know what your life circumstances is for you to limit contact, or for you in your own mind to, how do you separate what they're saying and all the garbage that they may be throwing at you, again, to just observe it. become from a neutral place. But many times we internalize it as something about us. So I'm going to really encourage you. Sometimes we have to take a deep breath. I like to do the visualization. Like if somebody throws a lot of energy at me, I like to take a deep breath. I take it and I just give it back to them. But there's lots of things that you can do to be able to minimize that. But the number one, minimize contact. And depending on your relationship with your husband and how emotionally mature he is, to be able to talk to him about ways for him to support you and to support your coupledom in this dynamic. And and when you have a healthy, loving partner that's open to feedback, the two of you can come up with some really wonderful ways to manage that toxic family. All right, let's see. Anybody else? Oh, hi, Safia. Let's see. Anybody else? I'm looking here. Sorry. Mira, my assistant's usually with me. She's amazing. Yoga. Yeah, yoga is a real good one to manage stress. Yes, Mira, you said, and we always have to take the first step. That's right. If you're going to depend on other people, your job to minimize your burnout, no. If you're going to depend on your family to not put stressor on you, you're deluded. Like, just ensue that. You have to take accountability and responsibility for your life and surround yourself with supportive people. Like, I feel so blessed. Like, it took a long time. I was the lone sheep in my family. I was known as the black sheep. I was always wanting to heal and move forward. And there was so much pushback. It took decades for me to create a community around me of my cousins, my sister, my, different family members that I feel so grateful that we were able to continue to heal together. But I had to take that first step. I needed to take accountability and deal with some really intense pushback. Majnoune, lesh hek, shubit sawi, like, oh my gosh. And I just said, no, I have to stay forward. But I also had a therapist who was in my 20s. I was 21 when I first went into therapy, who was like, what is happening in your life? This is not sustainable. So you need to take the first step, and you need a support system. You cannot do this alone. I'm letting you guys know. That's why I created this community too, because sometimes you feel so alone in your healing journey and wanting to improve. Maybe you're a parent and you have children and you want to do better. You don't want to burn your kids out at the age of 10. And yet they're saying, oh, you're spoiling them. You get so many haki fadi, just so many comments. And you need a lot of strength within you to, again, not absorb those comments, but to observe them, that's about their limitation, their level of understanding. Yes, so you definitely have to take the first step. All right, how are we doing? Because I'm going to finish up here because I have a client. Kalawati, the hardest thing is the closest to you are the ones causing all the hurt. That's really unfortunate. And sometimes we have these very complicated relationships with our Middle Eastern families because we were taught to honor them and to love them and to be there for them. And sometimes they could be, again, not so nice in the constant demand. And all I can tell you in my 50 plus years of doing this is, again, how do you observe and see them for who they are and not absorb? I've said that like 15 times because you can have relationships with them, but it's almost like you have to half listen. But it's because of the triggers and the wounds within you that they could feel very intense in your space. Now, this is barring very abusive. Like if we're going to look on a spectrum, this is barring very abusive families. Like if they're physically harming you, sexually harming you, doing these things. Yeah, I'm a firm believer. You can cut them off. Like your safety is so important. But for the average Arab family, where it's a lot of haki, a lot of judgment, a lot of criticism, that's them. That's where they're at. It doesn't have to be where you're at. So I could sit and have coffee ma aboy or have a nice meal ma immi, nafs al haki, and I just say, you know what? Tayyib yamma, that's where you're at. And instead of trying to heal her or be her therapist, I go, Tayyib mom, That's where you're at. I'm sorry you're going through that. Or a boy, all the control. Oh, shuf ana heku, and he's king of the, king of the hill. And, all of us are, we could never amount to what he does, right? I have a whole video on that later on narcissistic parents. And so you just, but you don't internalize it, because when you heal within yourself, nobody can say anything to you. Nobody can say anything to you unless you match that energy. So if you're matching it, if you're getting upset, you're getting defensive, that is a clear indicator you have wounds within you that may benefit you slowing down, just like with the burnout, slowing down and taking care, asking yourself, where is the root cause of this? Okay. All right. So tomorrow is Wadih. Excuse me. I don't know. I've been talking too much. Wednesday, Wadih Wednesday. So tomorrow at 8 o'clock Pacific time, I'll be answering more of your questions. If you have any questions that I didn't answer, please feel free to DM Mira, my assistant, calculates and she sends it to me. Today, I wanted to hop on and talk about burnout because that was one of the questions. I wanted to thank everybody from this community who joined in, who shares their thoughts. Together, I truly believe we can heal. It's about awareness and compassion and understanding. And this community is wonderful. And I really appreciate each and every one of you for joining this live. And I hope to see you on Wadih Wednesday. And next Sunday, we are going to talk about the father wound. Yes. And then you can find all my videos on YouTube if you want to see the whole live instead of these 30-second TikTok snippets. All right, everyone. Have a wonderful journey in what you're doing today. Know that my heart is always with all of you to find peace, to find love and compassion.